Chinese bamboo takes 5 years to grow. The thing is, it can barely be seen during the first 4 years, but it's building an extensive root system underground. However, once it breaks the ground, it can grow 90 feet tall in just 5 weeks. And that's kind of the same story with the positive habits that we acquire and stick to. As James Clear, the author of the best-selling book Atomic Habits, has said, changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. Take meditation as an example. After meditating 5 minutes a day for a week, you're probably not gonna see any results. But if you're gonna be willing to stick with the process, you're gonna be building that extensive root system underground. After some period of time of repeating that habit again and again and again, your spiritual world will prosper. Not because of one certain session in general, but because of marginal improvements and compound interest by continuous execution of the habit. Do you know when people refer to something to be a marathon, not a sprint? Kinda works the same way with habits. Stone cutter hits the rock 100 times before it breaks on 101st. Does it mean since nothing visually happened during the first 100 hits, they were useless? Even though it might seem like that, the stone would never break on the 101st hit without that initial input. If you think about it on the deeper level, habits are crucial because they literally determine who we are. Take professional athletes as an example. One of the reasons they reach the top because of their habit of healthy eating. Another reason is their habit of not drinking alcohol excessively. You got the drift. James Clear is an absolute subject matter expert when it comes to habits, and his motto sounds like 1% better every day. Have you ever thought what would happen to you if you would apply this rule for a year? Find out that 1% better will compound into 37-time improvement over the course of the year. But we all know that good habits are good and bad habits are bad, right? The problem for the majority of people lies in the fact that we simply cannot be consistent with our habits. It's not that hard to stop smoking for a day or show up in the gym once. A little bit of dedication and almost every one of us can do it. But it is a completely different story when you want to start getting consistent and start going to the gym 3 times a week and quit smoking for a year or 2 years or forever. If you are serious to begin introducing those long-term improvements to your life, willpower itself might not be enough this time, and you might need to get familiar with something that is called systems. According to James Clear's book Atomic Habits, there is a 4-step framework to make your habits stick. Making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. I promise you, it's not as complicated as it sounds, so let's talk about each of them. Let's say you have a desired habit that you want to acquire. The first step in your journey would be to make it obvious and visible. By increasing the visibility of your habit, you're more likely to perform that habit and be reminded to do it. Take John. John is a little obese and finally makes a decision to lose weight. But over and over, he follows his daily routine of going to college, coming back home, doing homework, playing video games, and simply forgets about going to the gym. If John would simply follow the law that we discussed, he could just set a new wallpaper on his phone that would motivate him and inspire him to go to the gym. Something like this one, for example. Or he could even simply add a daily reminder to his calendar that every day at 5:30 p.m. he would be reminded to go hit the gym and exercise a little bit. Look, it's not a rocket science, and there are thousands of ways you can make something obvious and attractive for yourself. However, the same principle applies if you want to drop one of your bad habits. Take smoking. If you leave your cigarettes on top of the kitchen table, every time you walk into the kitchen, you will see them immediately and will awaken that internal craving you have. James Clear suggests to increase the friction between you and the bad habit. Try putting cigarettes in the bottom drawer in your kitchen, and all of a sudden, as soon as you walk into the kitchen, you're not gonna see them immediately. Now it's less obvious and adds an extra step of opening the drawer. So-called friction. Second law is about to making a habit attractive or unattractive if you want to get rid of it. When something is less attractive, you're less likely to engage with it. I'll give you my personal example. I was a die-hard nails biter all my life, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't drop this habit. And the thing is, I was disgusted by the visual appearance of my nails, but I kept going even though I knew what's the result gonna be. What I did eventually, I took a picture of my nails and set them as a wallpaper on my phone to constantly remind me of the result of my bad habit. This was an example of dropping a bad habit, but let's say you want to acquire a good habit and start biking a little bit more in the gym. You can motivate yourself by linking it with something that you like doing. Watching TV shows. Next time you're gonna be biking in the gym, put your phone or iPad in front of you and turn on your favorite Netflix show. do. Trust me, the joy from this activity all of a sudden will hit the roof. Let's move to the third law now of making it easy. We've already touched a little bit on it with an example of cigarettes in a drawer. You are basically making it harder for yourself because now it's not enough just to walk inside of the kitchen and grab them from the top of the table. Now you need to go to the drawer, bend down, find them in the drawer, and then get up. And you can go as far with this process as you want and keep adding those extra steps. And instead of the drawer, put it on top of the closet, and now you need to bring a chair every time you want to grab them, so you'll need to put a chair, get on the chair, grab them, put the chair back, etc, etc. And all of a sudden, smoking is not as pleasant as it was before because of how complicated the process became. As you figured, you can apply the same law of making it simpler to the process of acquiring a habit. I always wanted to start journaling, but I didn't like the fact that I sometimes journal on my notepad and sometimes I was journaling on my computer, and then I couldn't sync it all together because I had notes in my journal, notes on my computer, etc, etc. But then I discovered an app for myself, Day One I think it's called, and basically what it does, whenever I write something in the journal, I can upload the PDFs into a computer, and whenever I write something in a computer, it just appears there. So that way I have everything in one place. Suddenly, journaling became way more enjoyable for me because I could sync everything together, and I started to do it more often because of that. Lastly, as a fourth law, you can make it more fun and make it more satisfying. When a habit is satisfying, you are more likely to repeat it. Here's some ways you can try to make it more satisfying. Celebrating small wins and milestones related to the habit. If you hit the gym 3 times, third consecutive week in a row, you can reward yourself and buy yourself that t-shirt that you always wanted but was kinda hesitant to buy. Now you can feel that you deserve it, and your habit of going to the gym kinda pays off a little bit, right? These 4 laws are universal as you saw and work both ways regardless if you want to acquire a habit or drop one. These laws, if applied correctly and repeatedly, will become a completely game changer for you. But there are 2 more factors that can significantly help you along the way: environment and identification. All of us are affected by the environment, either consciously or unconsciously. Environment can influence our mood, our opportunities, our salaries, and almost everything else. Access to nature and green environment yields better cognitive functioning, more self-discipline, and greater mental health overall. Here's a very harsh example of the influence of the environment. Where do you think people are more likely to stick to the habit of personal hygiene? Somewhere in US or in the remote city somewhere in Africa where they barely have access to the clean water? That is the same reason people go to workshop or buy online courses. They're introducing themselves to the environment of likely-minded people, where their collaboration is higher and the chances to succeed are higher as well. That being said, if you are constantly applying those laws we talked about and try to get better every day, but still feel drained and like emotionally, not in the right place, maybe you're not the problem at the end of the day. Now, a quick disclaimer. Don't immediately start to blame environment and everybody around, but rather just keep it in mind that it can be one of the factors, and changing the workspace environment, changing your friend group, or moving to a different city can greatly affect the overall state of things. Finally, we got the identification. Last but definitely not least. I hate to keep bringing it as an example, but imagine 2 ex-smokers getting asked for a cigarette. One of them will simply answer, "I don't smoke," while another one might say, "Oh sorry, I don't smoke, I quit smoking some time ago and I don't smoke anymore." Which one of them you think still carries that smoker identity with him? And when we carry those past identities with ourselves, in one way or the other, we still associate with them. When you drop a habit, just try to disattach yourself from the old you. Habits shape our life. Margin and small changes will compound into a big interest if we are willing to stick with them for years. Remember that rule and try to figure out which laws of the ones we mentioned are working the best for you. You can experiment, you can try something, and it might not work the best way for you. However, the other laws might work better. Thank you for sticking with me, guys. I would highly appreciate if you like this video, if you found it useful, and subscribe to the channel. It will help me tremendously. Check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.